Hi.
Hello. We're doing something different today.
No introduction, apparently.
I'm going to make an introduction, but this is the start of my introduction.
This is the start.
This is the start of Art One-on-One. I'm your podcaster, or not podcaster, pod boss,
You're the
Nicole Jordan,
podboster.
alongside your professional artist and master educator, Mr. Burgher.
Hey, welcome back. And again, it's a little bit different, obviously, going live. And so, just to remind everybody, you can jump on to the chat and things like that. And I'll remind you throughout the broadcast. But once the broadcast has come to the conclusion, obviously, uh, you know, normal video rules apply.
Well, this is our third attempt at this, right? Our first couple attempts, we had
Yeah,
issues with sound.
we had
Not today.
there was an issue. Hopefully not today. We'll see. But the first attempt was, I believe it was Christmas,
Oh, it was Christmas.
because we were trying to get, or around Christmas time, we were trying to do live, and then there was an issue with my computer. There was an issue with the mic. There was an issue with this and that, and we finally had to get it all checked out.
One new computer later, one new mic later.
Well, we got a new mic. We had the computer looked at by a actual technician that led us in the right direction. So anyway, here we are, and
You're going to start us off today, eh?
well, there's kind of an interesting thing that had happened this week
Okay.
that I hadn't really had before.
Okay.
An individual that was associated with the estate of Irving Schiffer contacted me, and Irving Schiffer was an artist from New York. Uh, kind of a, I wouldn't say like a recognized name. You're not going to see books and publications and things of his work.
Mm-hmm.
However, his family and members of his estate wanted me to take a look at some of his paintings,
I remember you talking about
and they had questions about associations with perhaps the Ashcan school and how that would have worked. And so I provided some insight to that. And so kind of a really interesting chain of events that occurred. And I really appreciate the opportunity to do that. And that was really fun to dive in and take a look at the work and examine it and compare that to other artists and um, try to show some influences and where he would have found the influences and things like that. So
Remind me where and when the Ashcan school it was.
so the Ashcan school was like the early 1900s New York, Philadelphia. I mean, it was like the Pennsylvania, New York, New England sort of area where it was really at a tight, mostly New York. And these artists were doing all kinds of different things. It was kind of, they were showing the emotional side of New York, the grit and the grime and the the way that they really lived, not necessarily the glitz and glamour of things. And so anyway, that was really a fun side project, I guess. And it took a little bit of time to dive in and really analyze things and provide the information that I was happy with, but we got there, and that was a lot of fun. And I also was thinking about, this being the beginning of a new month. The last time we had talked about the top 11 videos on Art 101.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a, what do you call that? Pod link, a book of, there's a thing. There's
Playlist?
a playlist.
Goodness.
Yeah, there was a playlist of the top 11 art
Yes,
videos
there always is.
that for the month. And the last time we talked about it was like in the middle of the month. But I thought, it makes more sense. Why don't we talk about it like in the beginning of the month?
All right.
So
So have there been some big changes or what?
There really were some surprising changes, but also some interesting elements when it comes to the top 11 videos that have been watched on Art 101. The number 11 video was Bernini, which is a brand new video, only a week old or so, 9 days old, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that had got some really good buzz. Cellini was number 2, and that's a 2-year-old, or number 10. That was a 2-year-old video. Conversations with Pollock, followed by Pizarro, Benton, which are, Pizarro was a video that I did 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And Benton is a year old. Surratt, which is a month old, again, number 6 on the list. Victor Vasterly, Klaus Oldenburg, Sailor Jerry. William de Kooning was the number 2 video, and that has always been the number 1 video for a long, long time. But only 3-month-old video on Peter Bruegel the Elder was the number 1 video watched this past month.
Which is there something going on that's coinciding with that becoming popular?
No, I just think
something.
I don't. It's just, sometimes it's like the algorithm takes over, and I don't really know why things are watched or what. But I accept it. I'm gonna adjust this.
Well, and you saying that this, like, you have no idea sometimes why videos get popular.
Right.
When I pulled the card, we always move right into Ask the Art Guides,
Ask
right?
the Art Guides.
Are you okay with me moving into that?
Sure.
Because what you just said it just brings a topic up that was mentioned in the artist for Ask the Art Guides. So when I pulled Ask the Art Guides, Tracy Emin.
You might not want to show that one too close.
It's censored.
So
it's censored. Tracy Emin. This is going to be weird because you can't pop up the graphics on here.
No, right. It's a little different.
So Tracy Emin is the artist that I pulled up, and like watching videos about her, man, she was interesting. Where you're like more interested in the history of art, I'm more interested in the people, like learning about the artists. Right. I think that's what's so interesting to me. And then I watched a video. What?
I just think that the history is the people.
Yeah, they're probably.
I mean, the history of the person is really, but I think that there's a lot of things that go into it.
And after saying that, you dive into the people just as much as you dive into the art, like your videos.
Right.
So I just think, for me, at this very point in time, the artists, like diving into the artists and who they were and why they present the certain art that they do, I think that's so interesting to me. And with her, it was like, I don't know, the 11 theories or like theories of Tracy Emin, like things that she thought were important for people to know. And one of them is that like being an artist isn't just about being an artist. It's so much more now. And you can't, like, there's a process to making it big. Like every once in a while, you'll get just a piece that from a person that isn't very popular that just all of a sudden takes off. But she's like, it's not that normally. There's a process. And I went to art school and I did this. And then my first exhibition was at 30 and that was really late. So my question to you that you made me think of when you were talking about like why that one became popular, it made me think about why she became popular.
Right.
And the process. And I don't really know what the process is. Like, what is the normal process? Like an artist or a musician goes through, like, you have to create the music, and then you have to put out I don't have no idea what the right word is, but like a dub, and then you used to send it out, and then like, what's the process of becoming an artist?
Well, I think that's a very complex idea, and if I knew the exact thing, I would probably this would be a whole different channel. This wouldn't be examining art history of the people and whatnot, it'd be more
But that could be part of your process.
self centered, I guess, but I don't know. Um, and again, but generally speaking, from looking at artists and studying artists and what they do, there really is no one way. Um, there's a lot of different ways, but generally speaking, there is there's an interest that goes into a deep creation phase, and the artist just creates, whether that's through a training, through school, through an apprenticeship. Those usually are taking place. Some artists will go down a path, I suppose, for lack of a better word, of saying that they are self-created, they are self-taught, which anybody that's read a book or watched a video or done something else outside of themselves can probably recognize. You didn't just you didn't just invent the wheel out of your own, out of the thin blue air. There was something there. There was some education. There was some knowledge being passed to you through some conduit, whether that's a book or whatever.
Right.
So the idea of doing it on your own, I mean, you can learn independently without a teacher there, but there's somebody that wrote the book. There's somebody that made the YouTube video. There's somebody that passed along knowledge to you.
Okay, so we're getting
Off the task.
Exactly. So process. You said there's a process.
So
or a creation phase.
Right. So then you're creating, and then there's, after you're creating things, or you have a group of works, then there's a discovery. Somewhere you have to be discovered and put into a show. You have to be given an opportunity. And sometimes that's a documentary. Sometimes in today's world, sometimes that's a documentary. Sometimes that's a YouTube channel or a TikTok post or a this or that. Like, there's a lot of things that can get someone's name out there really, really, really fast. But historically, it's usually a show or a gallery or someone that is high up in the art food chain that says, I like that, I want to bring that up.
Touches their eye.
The gallery owner that, or the representative from the major museums that stumbles across Grandma Moses's paintings in a pharmacy window and says, hey, those are really interesting paintings, let's put you in a show of unknown artists and see what happens. And then the next thing you know, Grandma Moses becomes a major artist with a deal with Hallmark and explodes into popularity and fame.
Or someone like Snoop comes along and likes it and posts about it, and then becomes
or
popular within minutes.
A celebrity or something like that. But again, historically, it's a gallery, and a lot of times, like when you look at the Impressionists got really big steadily because the galleries that they were showing in became famous. So it was, oh, we put our art in this space, and then that space becomes popular, and it's like, well, they became popular because that space was popular. So they were put in a popular space. So now that they're they're popular by association with the space that they're in. So there's all kinds of ways that people become known or famous or popular or recognized as artists. But I believe that you don't have to have a book. You don't have to have a calendar. You don't have to have a deal with Hallmark. You don't have to have all of you know there doesn't need to be a special interview with you to make you an artist. I think that people are artists, um, and they don't necessarily have to be an artist outside of their own brain. If they believe that they're an artist and they're making artwork, then they, in fact, are an artist. I mean, it's fairly recent turn of events that I've got a show coming up in July. So I've got, I'm making a lot of work. I'm getting things framed, and all of these things are happening in a fairly, I mean, July is not right now, but it's it's out there a little ways, and before long, I'll be right on top of it. So it's you know going out there and putting your work out there, putting yourself out there, and then hopefully this will lead to that, to lead to this, to lead to that, and then eventually you get down a path of, you know, oh, I saw that show, we want to bring that show here, or we saw the success of that show in this space. I think we can have success with that show in our space. And
Do you think those galleries, those in-person galleries, are becoming obsolete?
no.
Like I'm just giving this example. Like you used to go to an auction in person, right? You'd go to the house and you'd walk through the house or whatever. And now we're into these auctions that we do online, and it's like it's so fun, but it's totally different than what it used to be. You can do everything online. You don't think, and I think those old auctions are becoming more obsolete.
Well, I
Where
think
I'm just wondering
COVID
if galleries are
I
the
think
same.
COVID changed the world a little bit when it comes to
Well,
some of those things.
that is very true.
And I think that auctioneers found a way, like they still had to feed their family, they still had to make things work. Well, how can we still do business but without anybody here? Well, they found a way. And now it's like, well, shoot, instead of going and standing outside all day waiting for that item to come up, I can just sit on my phone, wait for that item to come up, and bing bang boom, and then I go pick it up.
But you think the galleries still need that in person?
I
Like you need
think
to be able to come and see the art and experience the art
I
in
think
person?
I think that experiencing Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night and standing in front of it and looking at it in real life is way different than seeing it in a book or a magazine or a newspaper.
Right.
Those are very different experiences. And I think that seeing artwork in person, there is no there is no reproduction that will do it justice. You know, I thought I understood Pablo Picasso's Guernica until I went to the Reina Sofia in Spain, and I stood right in front of it, and you can see the drips and the details and the things that you can't pick up on a in a textbook, or seeing a reproduction, and on a even on a good quality poster, you can't pick up all of the things that's in this painting that's the size of a wall. I mean, it's just impossible. Standing in the Sistine Chapel and looking up at Michelangelo's ceiling and looking at the altar and looking at his work right there, standing in front of the statue of David, standing in front of the Pietà, there is no reproduction that can do that.
And you have to be in person to
And
experience that
I think
emotion
it's
or that impact or
well, I think
depth.
it's everything that goes into it. It's the presentation of it. It's the looking at the details. It's the all of the things that go into it. There's a lot that goes into it, and seeing it in person, there is, in my mind, there is no good um, second option. Although there are other options, and looking at like having an online museum, yeah, that's cool. And going to the Museum of Modern Art's website and checking out what they got. Yeah, that's cool, but it's not going to compete with doing the real thing. Knowing what's there is way different than actually seeing what's there in person. Very different experiences.
I think that one of my faves, Bill Murray, would agree with you. He's actually the video for Journey into the Archives that I watched, and the exact experience that you're talking about is something that he experienced in like one of the, I would say maybe for him, one of the deepest, darkest moments of his life.
Yeah.
And the video that I watched called Bill Murray, Song of the Lark.
Song of the Lark. It was the name of the video is Song of the Lark for Mr. Bill Murray.
Ah, okay. Yes. Thank you for correcting me as you do.
As I do. Because
yes.
I mean, because if somebody looks up,
if they look up what I wrote or what I said, it's going to get them there.
It probably would.
Okay. So.
But the actual title of the video
was what?
Song of the Lark for Mr. Bill Murray.
Okay. So in this video and that I watched for Journey into the Archives, Bill Murray talks about this exact type of experience for him. And so just kind of walk through that a little bit, if you would.
Well, I think that going to watching the video on your own, again, it's like hearing it secondhand from me isn't as impactful as hearing it from Bill Murray. But basically, Bill Murray was a struggling artist, a struggling actor,
yeah,
and in Chicago, and he was contemplating what he was going to do with his life, and so he says, I'm basically contemplating ending it all, and he decides that instead of that, he's gonna walk to the Lake Michigan and go for a big long swim, I guess. And one thing leads to another, and the best way to do it is to go watch Bill Murray, watch the actual video and hear Bill Murray tell it. But he ends up at the Art Institute of Chicago, and he walks around, and the back in those days, you didn't have to pay to get in. Now you have to pay to get in.
It was donation.
And he just, he wasn't going to pay. He just walked right in and just started walking around, and he stumbled in front of this painting, Song of the Lark, and fell in love with it. And then, and he says that painting and reflecting on that painting saved his life. And that's a really, really powerful thing that art can do.
Tracy Emin talks about that in her videos that I was watching. She talks about like you don't really feel like you're an artist until because you create and you create and you create, but until someone like relates to your art and it gets out there and people see it and start interacting with it and then responding, that's when you truly feel like an artist. And like some of her pieces were pretty, as we've talked about before, like many artists, like controversial, and she had some pretty intense artworks on abortion and things like that. And I don't want to get into them specifically, but like women reached out to her and talked to her about like how impactful or how that changed their life or how they felt compassion or supported or heard when she came out with that piece of art on abortion. And like, that's like the ultimate gift, I would think of, or the ultimate, what do I want to say? Like of being an artist, the goal of being an artist? Do you think?
I think that a lot of times, artists are like a lot of times, like when you think about like elementary art or high school art, it's make something fun, make something cool, make something that like I've got to do this assignment. I'm just gonna draw this thing. Like it's just like it's not real. It's not real art. And I try to explain this to my students on a regular basis. And sometimes I think that it really makes a difference, and sometimes I don't know if it hits the target, but generally speaking, you know, it's hard to uh, I tell students, like, really good art should communicate. This is a form of communication. What do you want to say? Because I don't know what to say. I don't have nothing to say. And I'm like, well, come, like, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that, or what do you like? And they say, well, like, one student came to me the other day and said, I want to do, we're working on a surrealistic project. And they said, well, can I do something kind of religious in my surrealistic project? And I said, that's fine with you. They're like, okay, I didn't want to get in trouble for making something religious. And I said, here's the thing, when it comes to things like that, like, I can't give you an assignment and say you're going to make a religious picture.
Right.
But if that's what you're wanting to do, and that's the communication that you bring to the table, and those are the decisions that you're making, you can do whatever you want. There are people that'll say, there is no prayer in school. Well, you're right. The teacher isn't up in front of the class leading a class prayer. However, if students want to do that, they can do that.
Right.
That's their First Amendment right. They can pray in school every period of the day if they want to. And there is nothing that says they can't. Now, they may not uh, be able to disrupt the whole classroom, or invite everybody else to, peer pressure others to be involved. Um, and in some cases, I know of teachers that will, like, there's the uh, various organizations where they meet before school and after
FCA is
school,
one
and
of them. Yeah,
and they
Fellowship of Christian
and they
Athletes.
meet and they do their religious things, and there's teachers that are involved with that. And again, if you know those are things that are out there that people can participate in, but again, going back to the original
Yes, thank you. I was
thought,
going to bring you back in there.
the idea is that we're trying to make things that are authentic, and we're talking about things that are real and hard and difficult, and that's, in my view, what really, really, really good art does. I mean, there is stuff that's just, we like to look at it because it's pretty. Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. It's not really conveying a lot of a message, but
There's a feeling
but
when
it's
you look
just
at
but
it.
it just yeah, it's
It
that
creates a feeling.
that emotion that's embedded into it. It's there. Um which is why Vincent van Gogh is a great expressionist, sort of post-impressionist painter. Um, and again, like Jackson Pollock's drip paintings, there's not a lot of commentary. It's just kind of fun to look at. Um, he once said, you don't have to tear your hair out trying to figure out what it means. You know, you don't look at a bed of flowers outside, a garden bed, and tear yourself apart trying to figure out what it means. It doesn't mean anything. It's just pretty, and that's okay. You don't have to take it quite so far as to try to analyze every piece and part of it, but um, you know, just accept it for what it is.
Well, and that
Sometimes,
brings me to a question with Bill Murray and that painting. Is that really what it meant to him? Was that what it symbolized? Like with what the artist says that it was about? He said for him it was like the sunrise and it's a new day and a new
right?
and you have a new opportunity, and was that what that
I,
do you know?
I honestly, I can't in good faith say that I know exactly
Jules
what the artist meant.
Jules Breton, is that the artist? Is that
Yeah,
how you say his
I
name?
believe so.
Her name? His name?
His name.
His name.
And I wouldn't claim to know exactly what was going through the artist's mind when they made it. I think that would be
Well, sometimes they'll give an explanation of, sometimes they do, I think,
yeah.
with their art, and sometimes they don't. But with this one in particular, it's a
He,
lady that's
it's a man.
her.
It's a man artist, but it's a lady in
No,
the is
lady
the
holding
subject.
the yeah, so she's out in a field holding
Right.
some type of
A
tool
sickle or something.
and just listening to the larks at the beginning of the morning. So,
And I think that it's one of those things that, you know, we all can bring our own perspective
right.
into. Like, is this about the new day and everybody gets a new fresh start, or is this just, we're tearing our hair out trying to figure out what it means, when it just is what it is? It's just a portrait of a girl listening to birds sing.
Well, and I think that's what I love about art or about music or like it is what it is to me. Like a piece of art or a song can change like I can wake up in a shitty mood in the morning
Which
and
is often the case.
I can wake up and be, just a grouch and I get up, I put on my headphones, I do a meditation in the morning and brew a cup of coffee, and just the smell of a cup of coffee can change my
Right.
mood, or a meditation can change my mood. And just like, I think that's what makes a good piece of art. Like you look at it and you feel something, or it changes your mood, or it changes or I don't know, if it invokes something in you. I don't know. Is that right? Wrong? What I'm
I
saying?
don't
Like,
think
I
there's a
think
right or a wrong answer. With those sorts of things, I don't think that there's a right or wrong answer. I think that that's an internal thing, not an external thing.
so. Thinking of that, like a piece of art that's moved you like intensely. Can you think of
Oh
a
yeah,
work for you?
lots of works.
Well, I
But
know, but like off the top of your head, what would be one?
well, I just want to remind anybody that's viewing, if you do have questions, comments, concerns, whatever, you can post those in the chat. We're watching the chat as we go live today, which is kind of a unique thing. And to throw it at the audience, if you have things that you want to throw out there, obviously you're welcome to do so, and we can have an actual dialogue that we
And you can
can't
just see the
typically
chat
have.
on your phone. Is
Yeah,
that
I
why
just
you're?
have it on my phone, so I
Oh,
can see, like,
nice.
if a chat if things pop up, then I can see it. But
It might be fun to do this more in the
well,
future if we get some interaction.
maybe once in a blue moon
It's
we
kind of
can.
scary though.
It is scary, so scary.
I was nervous this morning before we were doing it.
Well, but to go back to your question, I think that there are lots of artworks that, like, standing in front of Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night for the first time and knowing the history of why he painted that. He was in a mental institution. He's not able to go outside at night anymore, which is when he loved to go out and paint. And he liked the cool air of walking around at night, and he loved that. And no longer having the ability to do that because of his institutionalization, and being not being able to even really look at the sky anymore, and not seeing the stars anymore, and those sorts of things. He was sad, so he painted Starry Night so he could remember.
Yeah.
And uh, that was the sky that he wanted to remember. It was completely out of his memory or out of his mind. It was completely made up. And that standing in front of that with that knowledge and that power of the work, it's like, oh, this is really something special.
Yeah.
The first time I walked into the Pantheon, knowing how many thousands of people walk through that doorway, knowing how many thousands of of people have looked at these things and touched that door. And I mean, maybe it was jet lag, but it was very emotional to do, because I had read about this structure, I had studied it, I had talked about it year after year and day after day, and I said, someday I want to get there. And boy, going there and being there
Yeah.
for the first time was just like, this is awesome. And I'd never really felt that. I like, like, I don't like going and seeing things and experiencing things. Like, I enjoy doing it, but I don't get real worked up about it. it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, whatever.
Well, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, though, if we're going to be honest.
Well, when like I don't know, I don't really remember being like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing
No, I'm
ever.
just saying sometimes you have some pretty strong reactions and sometimes you don't. Not that reaction that you're
Right.
talking about, but other reactions.
Oh, I mean, I have,
You don't get excited very often.
but I
I
don't.
don't know
It's
that I've ever seen you be
like
excited
like crazy, like
like I do.
right, like having oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever, rah, rah, like that kind of reaction. I don't react to things that way. Um, and so reacting to those works and that, I mean, I wasn't really reacting that way in the museum. It was more internal than it was
Right.
external.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I get it. I don't know. Anything specific on that journey into the archives that
I
you
just
want to
think
talk about? I
I
kind of led the whole.
yeah, I mean, I just think that, like I said, if people want to hear the story of Bill Murray and what was going on with his personal struggle at that time in his life, I'd check out Song of the Lark video in my archives. It's what, 2 or 3 years old, probably 4 years
You
old.
know, I didn't pay attention to how old it was.
Mhm.
It's not very old though, because you don't look very old in the video.
Oh,
Not to go back, but I think one of the, like, if I had to talk about a piece of art that impacted me, it's funny that you brought up Jackson Pollock, because that
oh,
I always talk about that the painting in the Accountant, where is above his bed and has
right.
this, like, he's not severe autistic, but he's got some pretty intense
Well, he's
what do I want to say, emotions, and
hmm
he has that above his bed in his travel trailer, right?
right.
And like thinking about what that painting did for him, and then for him to like hand it off to somebody else from that, like, I don't know, that piece of art was so powerful to him, and then he let it go for the love that he had of somebody else. I don't know why, but I could look at that piece of art all day long. And it's not even, like you said, it's not like it is like Starry Night or this Song of the Lark by Jules. It's just kind of splotches on splotches on a canvas. But that's what it creates. Like, it's like you said, it's all perspective, which is what is so cool about art.
And I think that with a lot of things, especially with art, but life in general, from my experience anyway, you know, our reality is formed by our perception. And if we have a negative or positive perception of something, then it will be negative or positive, whether it is or it isn't actually negative or positive. So if we go into something with a positive attitude and we think this is going to be great, this is going to be the best thing we're going to do, and this is going to be positive, 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 then you have that positive frame of mind, you have the positivity, and then it's going to have no choice but to be a positive thing. But if you're like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing, blah, 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 and you're going into it with a negative view, then your perception is going to be negative, your reality is going to be negative, and in reality, formed by your perception, all negative. So I think that as people, the best things that we can do are try to frame our mind and our focus, and look at things from, and think about our perception of things and why we perceive things the way that we do. um,
I'm so proud of you. How many times do we have this conversation about, like, and this is what I talk with my clients about all the time. I think you're actually listening to me.
no, this is
You. This isn't any.
no, this has nothing to do with anything. I'm hearing from you,
I'm gonna take.
but you can take the credit for it if you want.
I'm just kidding. You've always been a pretty
Guy.
positive.
Oh,
No, pretty positive person. Like, even in the like when things weren't going on great for you, you seem to be able to see the good in things, which is something I very much value. But you're right. It totally can change.
Well, I think that, you can go into any situation and you can think, "Oh, this is miserable." And then I mean, and it may very well be miserable, but if you can't see the silver lining in simple things, you're not going to, it's not going to be a very positive experience.
Well, yeah.
So,
I always give the example of, which maybe we've talked about this on the podcast, but the example that I heard in a motivational seminar one time, and it's like the guy that gets broken up with, and he's sad, and he's living in his apartment, and it's a disaster, and he's drinking beer, and he can't get out of his apartment. It could be a girl too; it doesn't have to be a guy, but and can't get out of his apartment, can't stop sleeping. He's just like, it's been days, weeks, and his friends have called him, whatever, but he's like, nope, can't do it. I'm just depressed, I'm sad, whatever. And then one day, like 2 or 3 weeks into it, the girl that broke up with him calls him. She's like, hey, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I want to get back together with you. And da 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 da. And in minutes, he's cleaning up his apartment. He's happy. He's showered. He's getting dressed. And a couple hours later, he's a different man. And it's all like that quickly we can shift our mind through a piece of art, through music, through
but I also
nature,
but I also think that uh, we can try to find things that make us happy, like a relationship or something like that. And sometimes relationships and companionship does make us happy. And those are things that those are important things. But I also think that it's important to know who you are and make yourself happy more than relying on another person for those things.
Well, I agree, but it's perception, right? He couldn't get out of it because he was stuck in it,
Then
right?
he's an
But the
idiot.
minute
Then she is an idiot.
No.
Yes.
No.
Because
Sometimes
they
it's
have
just one thing.
Because they have the power to say, you know what?
They do.
That person moved on, so you know what? I'm gonna go in the shower. I'm gonna wash my ass. I'm gonna put on some clothes that aren't on the floor. I'm gonna clean my environment up. I'm not gonna do destructive things. I'm not gonna become, abuse substances and other things. I'm gonna kick myself in the ass and move forward.
I'm just saying perception. I'm backing your perception is reality for people
because that is true,
and the fact that how quickly someone can shift. And I think art, like just bringing it back in, art is one of the things that can quickly,
right.
As in the case of Bill Murray and the Song of the Lark, which I'm saying wrong, as it did
You're
for
saying
him.
Song of the Lark wrong?
No, the Bill Murray Song of the Lark. It was Song of the Lark made for.
No. The word made is not in it.
Okay.
Just stop.
Okay. Anyway, bringing it back to that, like Bill Murray's that video, which if you haven't, you should check it out. It's a great video.
I would say I wouldn't go so
No.
far. Some of my stuff is better than others, but there's some good stuff in there in the old archives.
Yeah, if you don't go too far back. If you go too far back, it's pretty brutal.
Although that can be good. That can be good from a comedy, for a chuckle.
Yeah.
But I think that's true of all creators. Like, my first artworks, my first videos, my first this, my first that.
Yeah.
The first time I tried to read a book, the
that
first
we talked about.
The first time you try to do anything, you're going to fail and not do well. The key is to keep with it and learning and growing and moving forward. And
there is no failure.
And
Mr.
learning.
Burgher.
And
it's just a way to learn and move forward.
Well, we're not Bob Ross here. I think that there is failure. I think that failure is a part of learning, and learning is an important part of growth. And growth is how you get from point A to point B.
Well, and that's why I said there's really no failure. You're always learning and growing out of something.
Yeah.
Unless Unless that ends things for you, then that's a whole different. That
That's
would
a
be a
different.
failure.
That's a different story. Then.
All right. Well,
All right. Well, that's all we have for today. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, interact, and do all those things.
this is him being excited. If you can't tell.
All right.
All right. Have a great day.
All we got to do is push that button, and then we push this button, and we're done.